The Fantastic Beasts movies are movies that aren't really my favorites. Don't get me wrong, I love Harry Potter. I grew up with the series, watched all of the movies countless times, looking very forward to the Hogwarts Legacy game that's coming out later this year, but that's besides the point. But it just feels like this series is outshined in every way compared to the original Harry Potter movies. Like, it definitely feels like it doesn't live up to those movies, especially if you've watched them before. However, Secrets of Dumbledore, the third movie in this series, I feel, gets as close as it can get to the Harry Potter series, while also fixing up some of the mistakes from its predecessor. But hold your horses, we're not going to talk about that movie just yet. Now, since I haven't really talked about Fantastic Beasts at all on this channel, I'm going to go pretty detailed today, not only about this movie, but also in relation to the first two movies and the entire series as a whole. So buckle up, grab some popcorn, grab some chips, maybe a nice large soda, because this might be a long one. Fantastic Beasts is a series that focuses less on the individual movie, but more on the journey, the entire journey. And apparently there's going to be 5 movies of this. I literally only just found that out like just recently before watching this movie. But here's the thing I'm getting to. Each movie just kind of feels like a setup for the next one. Like these 5 movies are just one big book, right? And each movie is just like a few chapters in the book. Like, that's exactly what it feels like. It's more of an overarching story than anything else. It's like a marathon rather than a sprint. It's the reason why the first and especially the second movie just don't really have any solid conclusions. And some people, like me, might look at that and be like, damn, really? That's a whole lot of waiting. And the fact that there's not really any post-credit scenes in these movies just doesn't really do it any justice as well, because like, where's the excitement for the next one? Where's the hype? I still remember being in the cinemas like after the second movie, Crimes of Grindelwald, and being like, wow, really? That's it? Well, now we're gonna have to wait another 2 years for the next one. Ended up being 4, but whatever. Yeah, that movie was just wasn't really that good at all. The first one was way better, a bit slow and boring at times, just like many of these movies, but it was still a pretty good introduction, you know, learning about all these different fantastic beasts, some important characters, and I love the chemistry between Newt Scamander and Jacob. The second one just felt like a bunch of story crammed into it with not a whole lot of meaning. I recently rewatched them and was like to myself, okay, so things happen, but it doesn't really feel like it's very important or means anything at all. But I think you're probably done hearing what I think about the first and second movie. It's this one, Secrets of Dumbledore, that's most important, right? But I mean, hey, I had to like kind of lay the grounds and, you know, tell you what I think of the other movies just to kind of show you where I stand, right? Secrets of Dumbledore is definitely a step in the right direction for Fantastic Beasts. Even though it's far from perfect, it's more goal-driven, the journey is far more exciting, and it relates to the Harry Potter universe and Hogwarts so much more. But I mean, it's the journey, really, for me, that makes a Fantastic Beasts movie, since, you know, there's not an actual conclusion. That's why I feel like these films will gradually get better, because right now, you know, it's still kind of building up. In the future, we will, I'm pretty sure, have more exciting films that relate to the Harry Potter universe and timeline a lot more. But like I said, this film is a promising sign. But coming back to this movie's journey, it's just way more exciting. It's about putting a squad together, all with different tasks, kind of like they're infiltrating and getting inside the enemy's heads, working on this elaborate plan that will prevent Grindelwald's world domination. It's still a fun movie with funny moments between characters, and the movie feels way less like a bunch of story crammed into a very short amount of time. It happens in short bursts, which is way easier to digest. No part was, I felt like, very heavy in terms of story, especially if you like compare it to the towards the end of the second movie, where there was this huge part where everything kind of just unraveled at that one particular moment and became pretty hard to process, I thought. Though with all this being said, that still doesn't stop this movie from putting in a lot of story and information. There is still a lot of talking and not a whole lot of action, but when the action was there, man, was it beautiful to watch and more reminiscent of a Harry Potter movie. But there are some things that this movie does sacrifice in order to focus on different things, which is fine, but kind of makes me miss the things that this movie is somewhat lacking. I always thought it was wonderful seeing what the different beasts were capable of. Even though there's some of that in this movie, there's way less of that compared to the first one. After a certain point, there's like no beasts at all. And for a movie called Fantastic Beasts, you kind of expect otherwise, right? But no, this movie focuses more on the people, more specifically on Dumbledore and Grindelwald's relationship. I feel like we learn a lot about their past and their connection is a whole lot clearer now. Some people were made to be villains, and one of them is Mads Mikkelsen. He did really well, I thought, and kept that menacing look that Johnny Depp had, even more so, I feel like. But still, I kind of wish Johnny Depp has stayed, but because of the whole thing, with Amber Heard, he was let off. I would say Mads Mikkelsen plays a better Grindelwald, although I am unfamiliar with what Grindelwald is like as a character in the first place. But my main problem is it just kind of ruins immersion. Like, I'm so used to seeing Johnny Depp that bam, someone else appears and it's hard to get used to them. But yeah, like I said, this movie mainly shines the light on those two characters, Dumbledore and Grindelwald. We don't see Newt all too often. Heck, he and Jacob aren't even with each other for most of the movie. And one very prominent character, which I won't mention because it might be considered a spoiler, isn't even in this movie almost. And that's a problem with having a group for most of this movie. You don't really know who to focus on. Everyone has their own battles, which means character development is kind of at a minimum. This was the case for Queenie. Her development just wasn't really fleshed out all that much, as much as I thought, or as much as it could have been. Towards the end of the last movie, she full believed in Grindelwald's plans, but at the start of this movie, she's unsure of it. Her whole turning to the dark side thing only kind of happened for 5 or 15 minutes of screen time. But I think in terms of a development of a character, Dan Fogler as Jacob is the most exciting throughout all these movies. And I absolutely love how he is like the representation of us, of all the muggles in the world. His reactions to certain things he's never even dreamt of before, to now where he has a key role to play in the wizarding world. Throughout this movie he is still learning though, but I'm excited to see what roles he has to play in the future. Okay, look, there are way too many characters to talk about, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Jeez, that's the problem with having too many characters. It feels like there's so many relationships, so many roles and stub stories that the movies just don't have time to flesh them all out, and that was the case with this movie. Some characters were basically just forgotten. Look, Secrets of Dumbledore might have fixed some of the issues its predecessor had and ultimately feels like a much more entertaining movie. But it still suffers from just being another stepping stone in the story's ultimate conclusion, which is in the next movie. The build-up continues. Although I have to say, they definitely tried their best in this movie to kind of form some sort of satisfying conclusion in the end, and ended on a semi-high note. I'm going to give Fantastic Beasts Secrets of Dumbledore a B-. Oh, and here's what I would rate all the Fantastic Beasts movies as a whole. Second one easily the worst, third one might just be on par with the first one, or just a tad worse. I don't know, I can't decide. But I think I think seeing the development of the characters from the first two movies makes this movie a whole lot more fulfilling to watch, you know, seeing what everyone or most of the, you know, more prominent characters from the first two movies, like what they went through and stuff like that. But anyway, that's it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below, like and sub if you enjoyed, and as always, feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.